My cousin publicly humiliated my autistic son in front of dozens, so we left and she called CPS and tried to have my son taken away, not realizing just how fast the tables can turn. My cousin Natalie, 36F, and I used to be close when we were kids. But somewhere along the way, she got bitter. I don't know if it was because I got the job she wanted straight out of college, or maybe because I was always the nice guy in the family while she had a reputation for being, well, a smug manipulative type. Think always has to one-up you, thinks her parenting is superior, married into money, and loves to remind you about it. That kind of person. She has 2 daughters, and every time our families get together, it turns into a subtle competition. She'll bring expensive homemade pastries to a cookout and act surprised that I brought store-bought cookies, or she'll make comments like, "Oh, it must be so nice not having to worry about your kid's social calendar." Real sly digs. But I kept the peace because family, right? The event that broke everything happened at my aunt's birthday party a few weeks ago. It was a big backyard celebration, tables, music, buffet, the whole deal. About 40 people, family, and some friends. Eli was doing so good that day. He had his noise-canceling headphones, his favorite Dino toy, and he was excited about the chocolate cupcakes. I had talked him through everything that would happen. He was doing his little happy dance by the snack table. I was proud, man. And then Natalie opened her mouth. She walked up with this fake smile and goes, "Ah, what a cute little moment. Are you going to do his dance too, or is that just his thing?" I tried to ignore it. But then she snatched his cupcake out of his hand and said, "Oops, sugar's not good for overstimulated kids." Just like that. Eli went silent. His whole body froze, and then I watched his face crumble. He didn't cry, he just shut down completely. It was like watching a light switch get turned off. My son, who had been laughing and flapping his hands 5 seconds earlier, was now rocking silently next to the buffet table while people awkwardly looked on. I snapped. I didn't yell, but I walked right up to her and said, "Give him the cupcake. Now." She smirked and said, "Relax. He needs to learn the world isn't always going to cater to him." That's when I took Eli by the hand and said loud enough for everyone to hear, "Come on, bud. We're leaving. We don't stay where people treat us like problems." We left. In the car, Eli didn't say a word. I drove around until he finally looked at me and whispered, "Did I do something wrong?" I told him he did nothing wrong, and he just nodded like he didn't fully believe me. That broke me in a way I can't even describe. But it wasn't over. Not even close. 3 days later, I get a call at work from Child Protective Services. Someone had filed an anonymous report saying that my son was uncontrolled, regularly in distress, and possibly being emotionally neglected. The allegations were vague but serious enough to warrant a home visit. I was stunned. And then I knew. Only one person in our family talks about my son like he's a burden. Natalie. She thought she could retaliate for being embarrassed at the party. She thought she could use the system to humiliate me, maybe even scare me into apologizing. She had no idea who she was messing with. The CPS worker came over, and to their credit, they were kind. They saw the labeled bins, the visual schedule on the wall, the clean house, Eli's bedroom with a canopy of glowing dinosaur lights and books arranged by series. They saw a father who works remote so he can be present. They saw love. And you know what the worker said? Honestly, I wish every kid I visited had this kind of support. But I wasn't done. Because if Natalie wanted to play dirty, I could play smarter. After the CPS visit cleared me, they closed the case the same week with no follow-up needed. I should have felt relief. But I didn't. Not even close. I felt violated. Angry. Like something had been clawed open inside me and wouldn't close. Eli didn't understand what had happened. I told him the visitor was just a lady checking on how awesome our house is. He bought it. But the way he kept asking if the woman was Natalie's friend told me he felt something was off. Even if he couldn't put it into words, he knew. And I was done pretending we were safe around people like her. The worst part? Natalie thought she got away with it. That smug little snake had the nerve to comment on one of my Facebook photos the next day with, "Glad to see Eli smiling again. Hope things are calming down, winking face." That winky face almost made me put my fist through my desk. But that comment was a gift. A digital fingerprint. I screenshotted it. And then I started digging. I went back through group chats, photos, old messages. And guess what I found? Not 1, not 2, but 4 separate occasions where Natalie had made comments about Eli being too much, not normal, or probably better off in a special home. One message to another cousin read, "It's sad that he doesn't even know how weird he acts in public." Makes you wonder what kind of parenting is going on at home. That cousin sent me the screenshot without hesitation. I didn't agree with her, man, she told me. I just didn't know what to say at the time. Neither did I, honestly. But now, I had what I needed. I talked to a lawyer. Not to sue, not yet, but to find out what my options were. And that conversation turned out to be a turning point. See, my lawyer asked me a simple question. Do you think she made a knowingly false report? I said, absolutely. He replied, then you can file a formal complaint with CPS. They take false reports seriously, especially if it's retaliation. So I did. I submitted a formal affidavit, copies of the texts, screenshots of Natalie's posts, and even audio from a voice memo I had saved from a family dinner a year ago where she joked, I swear, if I had a kid like Eli, I'd be calling for help too. It wasn't just malicious. It was a pattern. Then came the twist I didn't see coming. While all this was unfolding, my aunt, Natalie's mom, called me out of the blue. I need to talk to you, she said. Her voice was trembling. We met at a park. She looked ashamed. I didn't know what she did until after the party, she told me. But I found a draft email on her computer. She meant to send it to more people. She was trying to get the family to write letters to CPS anonymously, claiming you were unstable. My stomach turned. She tried to build a case? I asked. She said she just wanted you to get help. My aunt said quietly, but I think she was trying to punish you for walking out. I'm sorry. I enabled her for too long. I should have said something. Then she handed me a printed copy of the email. It was a bomb. Natalie had written that Eli was a danger to himself, that I ignored his needs, and that I was mentally erratic and isolated. She even included fake examples, like that Eli roams the neighborhood unsupervised, which is laughable, since I live in a gated complex with door alarms and Eli has never even gone outside without me. That email? It was the nail in the coffin. I sent it to my lawyer, who updated the complaint. The case got reopened, this time against her. And that's when everything started unraveling for Natalie. Turns out she had a past with CPS. I didn't even know. 2 years ago, she was given a warning for leaving her youngest daughter at home alone while she went shopping. Her husband wasn't even in the country at the time. It got brushed under the rug. But now, that little detail suddenly had a spotlight on it. The CPS investigator assigned to her case called me for a follow-up. We're taking this very seriously, she said. We believe this may be an attempt to misuse a state resource for personal retaliation. Good. Damn good. Meanwhile, Natalie tried to play innocent. She messaged a cousin saying, he's trying to ruin my life because I teased his kid. Is he seriously this unhinged? Another screenshot. What she didn't realize was the family. They weren't behind her anymore. Her little social game of gossip and manipulation had hit its expiration date. People started blocking her. She was losing the room, and she didn't even know it. The thing about people like Natalie is they don't realize when they've gone too far until they're standing in the wreckage they caused, wondering how the flames got so high. And by the time she realized she was in over her head, the fire had already reached her front porch. The CPS investigation into her false report officially opened the week after my complaint was filed. I kept it quiet. I didn't tell anyone except my lawyer and one friend I trusted like a brother. I didn't want revenge, I wanted protection. I wanted to send a message loud and clear, you don't mess with my son and expect silence. And then, right in the middle of all this, Natalie tried to play nice. She showed up at my work. Yup. No warning. No call. Just walked right into the damn lobby and asked the receptionist if she could speak to the gentleman in accounting, her cousin. I was so stunned when I got the page that I actually thought it was a prank. But there she was, leaning on the front counter, fake smile and all. Hey, she said, like she hadn't tried to ruin my life 2 weeks earlier. What are you doing here? I asked flatly. I didn't sit. I didn't invite her in. I just stood there, arms crossed, daring her to say one wrong thing. She launched into some rehearsed BS about how everything got blown out of proportion, how she only meant to help, and how she never actually filed anything. She just talked to someone about her concerns. I stopped her right there. Natalie, CPS has a report with your exact words. You didn't just talk, you lied. And now you're under investigation. Her face dropped like I'd punched her. What? She whispered. Yeah, I said, dead calm. You brought a storm into my house. You didn't think the wind would blow back on yours? She started crying right there in the lobby. Crying. Saying she was under a lot of stress, that her marriage was in a rough place and she felt alone and jealous seeing how close I was with Eli. She even said, I kid you not, you're such a good dad, it makes the rest of us feel like we're failing. And for a second I felt that old flicker of guilt. That instinct to say, it's okay. But it wasn't. And I didn't. Instead I said, maybe you should focus on your own kids instead of attacking mine. Then I turned and walked away. Told the receptionist she was not allowed back on the premises. Security escorted her out. A few days later, the real hammer dropped. My aunt called me again, this time with actual panic in her voice. She might lose custody, she said. They reopened her old file. They're looking into both girls' school absences, her mental health records, and they're talking to her ex about joint custody options. I won't lie to you, I felt sick. Because I never wanted her kids to suffer. They didn't ask for this. Just like Eli never asked to be born into a world where people whisper about him in front of buffet tables. But consequences don't care about intentions. And Natalie? She'd built this trap herself. Over the next couple of weeks, I watched the family unravel like a bad sweater. People who used to worship her started distancing themselves. She stopped getting invites to dinners, baby showers, birthdays. Our uncle unfriended her on Facebook. Even my aunt, the same woman who used to defend every one of Natalie's tantrums, stopped returning her calls for a while. But the wildest twist? Natalie tried to flip the script. Again. She made a post on her private Instagram, which a cousin screenshotted and sent to me, claiming she was being targeted by a toxic male relative and punished for standing up for a child with clear special needs whose father refuses to acknowledge them. She even used hashtags like #FamilyShouldBeSafe and #MothersAgainstAbleism. I laughed out loud. Like, full body laughed. This woman weaponized CPS against an autistic kid and now she was painting herself as the protector? But it didn't work. Not this time. The comments were brutal. People asked why she made a false report, why she bullied a child, why she made public remarks about a kid's behavior. She deleted the post within 2 hours. Too late. It was already screen captured and sent to the investigator. It only helped my case. Meanwhile, Eli was thriving. I took time off work and we started hiking together on weekends. He drew a comic strip about a superhero T-Rex who fights mean grown-ups who take cupcakes. I framed it. Put it on the wall. Because that's what healing looks like when you're 9. A T-Rex and justice and your dad holding your hand. After Natalie's little Moms Against Ableism stunt failed harder than her parenting blog, which, yes, she once had and used mainly to complain about neurodivergent kids getting special treatment. I realized something. She wasn't sorry. Not even a little. She wasn't scared because she'd hurt someone. She was scared because she got caught. Big difference. And I was done playing defense. So I stopped being quiet. I started telling the full story. I spoke to family members who'd been on the fence or tried to stay out of it. I showed them the screenshots, the CPS paperwork, the false allegations, the cupcake incident. I didn't embellish. I didn't twist. I let Natalie's own words do the damage. It was incredible how fast the tide turned once people realized just how far she'd gone. See, for years she was the puppet master, whispering in ears, pitting cousins against each other, planting seeds of resentment. But this time, she made the mistake of putting it all in writing. You can't gaslight a text message. What really tipped the scale was when I was invited to speak at Eli's school's parent night. They asked me to talk about inclusion, about raising a kid on the spectrum. It was a short little speech. I didn't even use notes. Just spoke from the heart. I told them about how Eli flaps when he's excited. How he's obsessed with how dinosaur bones are dug up and categorized. How he panics when things change unexpectedly, but how brave he is for trying anyway. There were tears. Applause. Afterward, 3 parents came up to thank me. One told me it was the first time she'd felt seen as a parent of a neurodivergent child. That night, I realized Natalie couldn't take anything from us. Not really. She tried to make us look broken, but we were the ones standing tall. Still, there was one thing left I needed to do. Something symbolic, something permanent. Remember that cupcake? The one she yanked out of Eli's hand? I threw Eli a party. A second chance celebration, we called it, at a local park. Just a few of his classmates, a dino cake, bubbles, and a cupcake tower that would make Willy Wonka cry. I let him pick every single detail. No dress code, no rigid timeline, just joy. And at that party, something happened I'll never forget. Eli, my quiet, anxious, sweet boy, stood up on the little playground stage, waved his hands and yelled, "Thank you, everybody. I love cupcakes and I love my dad." The other kids clapped. I nearly lost it. Felt like taking something back. Like rewriting the memory of that awful day into something warm and whole. But the final blow? That came later. CPS concluded their investigation into Natalie. They sent me a letter informing me that her report was found to be knowingly false and had been motivated by personal malice. They officially closed her case as unsubstantiated, but not before referring her for mandatory parenting classes and issuing a formal warning that any further false reports could result in legal charges. In other words, she was on record now. Flagged. She's not legally barred from calling CPS again, but if she ever does it out of spite again, she's one step away from criminal charges. I shared the letter with my lawyer just in case. And then, I sent a single group message to the family. It read, "To those who supported Eli and me, thank you. To those who stayed silent, I hope you're never in our shoes. And to those who tried to break us, we're still standing. And we're not scared anymore." Natalie didn't respond, but I know she read it. She's quiet these days. Real quiet. No more Facebook posts about toxic family. No more group messages. No more party invites. It's like she evaporated from the family chat. My aunt, her mom, still tries to bridge things sometimes, but I told her gently that I'm not open to reconciliation. Not now. Maybe not ever. She understood. Because here's what people don't get. When you attack a child like Eli, it's not just petty drama. It's not just family stuff. It's a full-on declaration of war on their safety, their dignity, and the one person in the world who was built to protect them. And me? I'll go down swinging for my son. Every damn time. You ever see someone slowly realize they've lost control of the story? That's exactly what happened to Natalie. She wasn't just losing sympathy, she was losing her audience. After the CPS findings came back and I shared the truth, she couldn't spin the narrative anymore. People stopped responding to her passive-aggressive Instagram stories, the family stopped inviting her to gatherings, and the ones who did show up, they weren't shy about asking questions. At first, she tried the usual Natalie tricks, blaming stress, pretending she was misunderstood, even suggesting she was the victim of a smear campaign. But nobody was buying it. Because deep down, they all knew, they just didn't want to believe someone in the family could stoop that low. But when the CPS letter went around, it was like her mask melted off in public. She wasn't a misunderstood mom anymore. She was the cousin who tried to have a kid taken away because she got embarrassed at a birthday party. That doesn't go away. Not in our family. Not ever. The divide was brutal. And obvious. Half the family, mostly the older folks who still believe in keeping the peace, wanted me to forgive and move on. "She made a mistake," my uncle said. "Family is family." You know what I told him? Family doesn't try to destroy your child's life over a damn cupcake. The other half, the ones who knew what it's like to have a child who's different or who'd been on the receiving end of Natalie's cruelty in the past, they stood by me. Some even came clean about stuff she'd said over the years behind my back. One cousin told me Natalie once said Eli would never be able to function in a normal school and that I was selfish for not institutionalizing him. That was 2 years ago. And she smiled in my face at Christmas that same year. Let that sink in. As for Eli, I kept most of this away from him. I didn't want him burdened by adult garbage. But he picked up on things. Kids always do. He asked me once, real soft, "Is Natalie mad at me?" And I told him the truth, the version he needed. "No, buddy. Natalie made a bad choice." And sometimes when people make bad choices, they have to sit by themselves for a while and think about how to do better. He nodded. Then went right back to lining up his dinosaur figures by tail length like the world hadn't just been burning around us. I want to live in his head sometimes. I really do. The funny part? All this chaos, all the stress and legal crap and family drama, Eli's the one who's thriving. Since cutting Natalie out, his confidence has grown like wildfire. He started volunteering to speak in his class. He asks more questions. He's drawing more, talking more, trusting more. It's like the shadow of being watched, judged, picked apart, it's gone. He told me the other day that he wants to be a teacher who teaches other kids about dinosaur feelings. And I swear, I had to go into the other room so he wouldn't see me cry. Because this whole thing, it started with someone trying to erase his joy. But it ended with him finding his voice. I don't regret anything. Not going public with what Natalie did. Not reporting her lies. Not setting fire to the fake peace our family was clinging to. I used to think keeping the peace meant swallowing pain. Taking the high road. Letting people walk all over you in the name of harmony. But that's not peace. That's silence. And silence is dangerous. Especially for kids like Eli, kids who can't always speak up for themselves. Kids who are easy targets because they don't fight back. Kids who get treated like problems instead of people. If standing up for him means losing a cousin, a few relatives, and a couple awkward holiday dinners, so be it. Because my son will never doubt, not for 1 second, that I will fight for him with everything I have. He'll never feel like he has to apologize for who he is just to make other people comfortable. He's not a burden. He's my kid. And if you have a problem with that, you're the problem.